Alright, you can see I've got it all the way up to the ceiling now. Everything's done. It came out almost perfect. I had to trim about a ½ inch off the top bricks to get it to go all the way across. So what I'm going to do now is tape off around the edge, so when I put the mud up, I keep it off of the wall, and I'll do the same thing. I'll take that down while the mud's still wet, but then when I go to paint, I'll also tape it off again. Just keep the walls clean around it and keep clean up to a minimum that way. What I'll do is make the drywall mud a base red. You can see I've got some left in here from practice panels, and I've got another one here that's full. I'm going to go ahead and fill it up. However, you'd be surprised how little it actually takes, because I'm just going to do the surface as much as possible, but I will do all the surface, and then what gets into the mortar groove, I'm going to come back and clean up with my finger, and I'll put it back into the bucket, and then I'll touch up to do a nice texture on the face of each one. It is time consuming, but the end result is going to look really nice, and especially when you go to paint it and put the smear on, wipe it down, it just leaves a really nice effect on there. What I use to color the drywall mud is this Marblers. It's something I bought off of Amazon. It's a cement pigment, and a little goes a very long way. To do this whole bucket right here, I think I used about 2 tablespoons maybe out of here. So a little going to go a long way to do a nice color on this. When it dries, it's just what you can see the color on the stick here. That's, it's more of a pink. And do you have to be exact and precise in making this? I don't believe so. It's just, I do this so that it throws up a base color, and if something would ever happen and it would get scratched, dinged a little bit, chip out, it's still going to have that red brick look. It's not going to be that glaring white drywall look, so that's the reason I go ahead and do that. And if it's a slightly different shade from up here to down here for the base color, that isn't going to matter. What is going to matter is the finished result for what you do on the painting and the smear, and you'll see how that goes as we do it. And so anyway, I'm not going to bore you with showing me adding 2 tablespoons of color and mixing it up. You see what it's going to end up with. You'll see what it is as I put it up, and then let it dry. And after that, then we'll get to the painting, and I'll bring you back. So we'll see you after a bit when I get started putting this mud up. Alright, as you can see, I've already started with the mud on the bricks, getting the texture, cleaning up the grooves a little bit as I go. I thought it would be a good time to bring you back. I'll try to zoom in with the camera. You can probably already tell I'm really not much of a camera guy, but I'll try to zoom in and show more what I do in this particular area, and I think that'll show up all right on the camera. Basically, I've just made the mud with the cement pigment in it to turn it red, give it a nice base color. This is what it looks like as it dries, what I got done last night. And this, of course, is darker till it dries. But I'll bring it in. I basically just take the spatula and dip in just a little bit to cover it all real good as I go. Make sure I get the top and bottom a little bit in there, and then just give it a light touch coming across to give it the texture. And so you wonder why the texture, that really adds to the finished product for what we like. If you want really smooth bricks, then by all means you can smooth it out to make it look nice and smooth. But I like the texture, and I like how it does the finish with the paint and with the smear and rubbing it off, and you'll just see how it is when we're done. So let me zoom in a little bit here, and I'll do a demonstration for you. And then obviously I've got a lot to do here tonight, so we'll see what we can do. Alright. Alright, there we go. Alright, I'll see what I can do here for showing this. I'm dipping into my bucket and I've got about this much on there is all. That's not much to work with, but it's plenty. You don't need to, if you just smash a whole bunch in there, all that's going to do is create a lot of extra work for when you're cleaning out the grooves. And if that's what you're comfortable doing, by all means go ahead, you'll play with it. You try this yourself and find what works best for you and what look you like best for the finished product. It's just really kind of fun, and that's what I would recommend, is just have fun with this. You know, if you do it one way and you don't specifically like it, you get a little more mud, go back over it, and guess what? It'll look different. When you paint it, if it doesn't turn out quite like you like it, then what you do is repaint it. You put the smear on. And that's a nice thing about mud when it's still a little, you know, doesn't have a clear finish on it or doesn't have paint on it. You can paint it again. So really, for doing this, you can't mess it up too bad. I would suggest, unless you're accomplished at creative things like this, doing the practice boards like I did first. Just get a 2 foot by 2 foot by ½ inch thick piece of drywall from the Home Depot or Lowe's, wherever you like to shop, Ace. I'm not here to promote one over the other. I just go to the one that has what I need is closest, to be honest with you. And but anyway, just get some 2 by 2 pieces, or if you have a good space, just get a full sheet, cut it up yourself. But I just built a little frame. Maybe I'll show that at the very end when I'm describing all this again, more in detail, the cost analysis, finished product, all that. Yeah, just cut it up, build a practice frame, and see what you can do with it. Anyway, let's see how this is coming out of the screen there. I like to do just a few rows at a time. I'm just going to do about halfway across here. Do 3, maybe 4 rows at a time coming across. And do some of this left-handed since this guy's showing up here. Don't get in the way of the camera so much. And I'm not going to worry too much about making it look super right now, because if you come back and clean out the grooves, you got to come back and kind of flatten out the edges a little bit anyway, because it'll leave a rolled lip on the edge. Anyway, I hope I'm not boring you too much with this, but I just wanted to give you a little section in real time what it takes. Each little thing. see me kind of looking over my glasses. I have bad astigmatism. Bifocals work good for a distance, but not so good close up. All right. So I did these 4 rows. So now what I'm going to do is come back with my finger. This is 1/2 inch spacing too. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but I'm using 1/2 inch. You can use whatever you want. And then I'll come in, clean it up, save this to reuse it. Also helps to keep a mess off the floor. I also keep a roll of paper towels handy. Plus I got a drop cloth on the floor. So you can see what kind of a mess you'd have if you just filled it all up with mud straight across, and just more to deal with. But I will admit that's what I did the first time I tried this. And that's when I decided, you know what, I think I'll just stick with the bricks. Minimize the grooves. And if you do have an area that you miss, or you know isn't quite what you want, you can sand it down a little bit, knock it down, chisel it down. These are bricks and mortar, and I'm giving them the handmade look with all the texture, and so they're meant to not look like perfectly factory-made bricks. So now I'm just, when you use your finger to go across, it does leave a little bit of a lip on some of the edges. So I just go and kind of knock them down, dress the brick up a little bit, make it look a little nicer. Make sure each brick, take the time to look at each one as you're going across. And you can see it's already starting to get a little stiff on me. Dry up a little bit. Again, a good reason to just go one section at a time, whatever you can comfortably keep up with. You know, if it does dry a little bit, no big deal. Go over it again. It's definitely not rocket science. And I had a foreman once that told me we're not building a watch here when I was in electrical construction. So I've always remembered that. Sometimes things do require you to be precise, but sometimes being solid and functional is plenty good enough. All right, and there we go. That's that section done in real time. All right, I'll bring bring you back when I get it all done. We'll pull the tape off, and the next step after this, after it dries, is the painting. Good morning. I got the wall completely mudded around the brick. It's dried, and I took the tape off around it and kind of cleaned up the edges a little bit. And so what I'll do next is retape around the edges and get started painting. So what I'm going to do, so you're not having to watch the whole wall in every color, I'm just going to pick this section right here. And when I get to this area, I'll turn the camera back on for each color so you can kind of see how I go through the color process. Initially, because we want a pattern of some bricks that are darker than the others. Kind of like what was the difference in color you saw with the MDF. And so I'm going to go off of that, try to create the same pattern. And so those bricks will be blacker, browner, without the extra lighter colors added to it. So I'll probably go through and do all that first. And like I say, when I get to this area, I will show you how I've played around to learn to bring the colors up to look like real bricks. I do start with the darker color and then work to the lighter color. And it just seems to be a way of doing it that works best for me to get the color I'm after. So absolutely, if you do this, try every method you can think of and you'll find what works best for you. So let me get the tape prepped around it, get some paint going. I was going to show you too here before I get started painting. What I'm using, I'm just cutting up sections of this kitchen sponge, and that's what I use to dab the paint on. And the paint I'm using, this is the paint I'm using. This will be the first color, the black. It's interior flat is what I use for the deep base. And then I picked a palette of colors, and I only got a quart of each of these. And I'll tell you, the amount of paint you use to do this work is so minimal. That 1 quart, if I were going to use that to color bricks, I could probably do a wall easily 10 times or more the size of this wall. The amount of paint I use will maybe be, I don't know, maybe a half cup of each color, maybe at the most for this wall. It's not much. A little goes a long way to bring out the color. So, and as far as the mud too, I was going to also mention, I went through almost this whole bucket, and I had about this much left in this bucket when I started. And so almost just basically 1 bucket to do this size of a wall, which is, well, it's 8-foot ceiling, it's about 6 foot across. So that's the size of this wall. And the palette, I was going to just show you the colors. There's no set rules to any of this. This is the color, the palette color of the colors I got. I got 1 of each of these. I got a gallon of white, just plain white, and out of this palette, I will mix the darker brown with some white, and I'll show you that again. I'll mix this color, this darker color of brown, with some white to make a real light, creamy color to add with it. And I think that's about it. So next thing I'll do again is tape off around the edges again with some fresh tape, and get the paint, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. Alright.